Welcome to our talk today. An inspirational speech, a warm-up, and an energizer in the death slot. So the death slot is because you've just filled your bodies full of food. And traditionally, at a conference, you would go in after lunch and your body's ready to go, and you sit down like this. And then somebody like me talks at you for a really long time, and your whole energy goes down. That's the death slot. We're not going to do that. We have about 6 slides, and then you get to stand up and do stuff, okay? So the intention of this workshop, this activity, is to, how can we energize people? How can we use play to energize people, but also so it's practical play. So it's inspirational because it's not only connecting with your body, with your emotions, which we absolutely need to do, but it's also connecting with your mind and with the bit of you that knows that you are not everything that you think. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Next slide, please. Thank you. I have a fantastic remote. So this is what I promised. So to inspire people with 3 relevant insights, and actually I have 4. So Joseph, do I need to delete one, or is it okay that we have 4 insights? Fantastic. From a world trip, which I'm going to describe in a moment. And we're going to connect in delightful ways here. And we're going to connect in relevant ways. So you're going to share your insights with each other about the conference, what lights you up. Hello.
You light me up.
Thank you very much. Awesome. Next slide, please. So what is it that I do? So I teach people improvisation techniques, skills, mindsets as practice, but in service of life. In service of, this is cool, this is like the Matrix. I teach people improvisation so that we can do a few things. We can connect more joyfully together in the way that we work, so that we can handle the emergent and we can connect in with our environment. And if we're connecting in with our environment, then we can actually do actions that are aligned with what we're seeing. And we can co-create a vibrant future together. So all of the stuff that you were talking about in terms of creating platforms of what's the future that we want, it's that type of stuff that this skill set is beautiful for. How do we create those deep, intense connections, relationships with people, and allow for this emergence to take place? So I've studied with some of the best improvisation theater people, like Keith Johnston, who's one of the granddaddies of improv, and a few other people like that. And my interest has always been, how do we take that, what they're teaching theater people, and adapt it so that we can really use it for life? Yeah? Next slide, please. Fantastic. So there's some myths about improvisation, because everybody improvises, yeah? Life improvises. And there are some ways that we can practice to be mindful of it and get better at it, because our schooling takes all of that out of us. Our schooling convinces us that there's a right answer. There's one right answer when there are many. It's very linear. It tends to be very linear. But things are complex, dynamic, and emergent. So a myth is about improvisation that it's chaos, but it actually is freedom within structure. There's always a structure to keep us safe. Another myth, if you've seen, who's seen theatrical improv? Who's hands up if you've seen? Fantastic. And some of that's funny. How was it funny when you saw it, or no? Hands up if it was funny. Okay. Did you see dramatic improv as well? Did anybody hands up? Okay, cool. You've seen both. Fantastic. Some people have only seen comedy improv, and they get really nervous about, oh my God, I'm going to have to be funny. And this is not about it. This is about connecting. But there's something really joyful in connecting in this way. So you might laugh at some point today. The other one, and I'm on a mission for this one, so the people in my workshop yesterday will know this, will have heard this before. A lot of people think that improvisation is only reactive. So you had a beautiful plan, something messes it up, and you had to improvise. Improv is also for co-creating, for being proactive. And we're going to play with some of that today, too. So, next slide, thank you. You're good at this. Very talented. So what I did last year is I went to 12 different countries. In 3.5 months. And I was delivering lots of different workshops, all basically teaching improvisation. So the top one is I'm in Denmark, and then I went to Italy and Crete, and Iran with the big fish, or whatever I'm doing. I'm not sure what I'm doing. Iran is at the bottom, and Singapore and Japan are 6 of the countries. And what really came through, so the tour was called Using Improv to Save the World, and I think you said, well, what we do can't save the world. Yes, and. I think there's things that we can do to really light people up. We are, all of us as humans, are antennas for vibrancy. And culture is a vibrant thing. So how can we make sure that how we deliver culture feels fantastic, feels vibrant? Next slide, please. Thank you. So first insight is we don't all do the same. We don't all do the same. Wait, hang on. We don't all do things the same. There we go. Yay! Okay, so if you could please stand up. And when you finish, sit down, please. So let's hear from the group as a whole, our group genius. What are 3 nice things that have happened that are okay to share? So only share your own if you're happy. What are 3 things that are nice things that have happened recently to people? What's one? Meeting other people. Fantastic. What's another one? Dancing. Yes, yesterday's dancing. Fantastic. So if you're doing things like dance and movement and anything that's embodied, it's so joyful because often our education system works against that, to be reconnected with that we get stuck in, oh my God, that was fun. Yeah, been there. But the reason it bounces out as valuable is because it's not pulled through to other realms, okay? So it stays in the pre-rational. And we as people who organize workshops or events, if we let it be just fun, that's brilliant, it's important. But there's a way, a very easy way, to pull it up to the rational. So you have an experience. How might that experience help you in your work? For example, that's an example of a question you can ask to pull it into, or how can this help you in your community, this experience? How do we want to feel in our community, and what are the structures we might need to put in place to feel this way? That pulls it up to the rational. And then we can ask one more question. Well, what's the quality of our thoughts? Did I notice anything either about myself or about how we engaged as a group that we might want to change? It's sort of self-witnessing. Does that make sense? And in order for the Iranian thing of noticing that this is not a good way to say hello to everybody, you have to be in witness. You have to not be your thoughts. You have to notice what's actually happening and unfolding instead of being stuck in your mind. Does that make sense? Okay. Nonverbal. So that's a really lovely game to play with people with ethnic minorities, different languages. Very simple. And it's a way, there's research that says if we play with people, we like and trust them more, as long as they stay within the rules. Yeah? If they cheat, we hate them, we think they're jerks. But as long as they stay within the rules, we like and trust them more. So there's something about how can we establish this deep relationship quickly in a way that's safe and in a way that allows us to then go and do something else, something connected with that connection that we've just created. And play is universal. So when I was going into the 12 different countries, there's a joy in connection that is universal. If you could do the next slide, please. So this is one of my favorite quotes. The opposite of play isn't work, it's depression. How many people feel depressed in their daily lives, in the institutions that they're in the organizations, in the events? So how can we make sure that there's some playfulness? How can we make sure that we're not depressing people institutionally? How can we make sure that the way that we approach things is aligned with what we're bringing? Because you're bringing joy, you're bringing aliveness. How can your events feel that way? Be what you love. Insight 3, be what you love. So I thought I was writing a business book about how do you create workshops in 12 different countries, and what games did I run, and what did I notice about cultural differences. And then I realized that, no, I'm writing a personal growth book. Crap. Because what was happening was to keep myself in a good state for such an intense journey, I had to do what I love. I had to do what I was teaching, what I felt brought to bring to the world. So in my case, next slide, please, I had to let go, notice more, and use everything. And that's the topic of the workshop that I'm going to do this afternoon. But those are the core capabilities of improvisation. So example, let go. Had to let go of even what to expect for breakfast. So at one point, my host got me to a venue. I like to be at a new venue about an hour early to set up. My first workshop in Italy, I got to the venue 15 minutes after the workshop should have started. So I had to let go of that stress and think, what's a beautiful choice? What's a beautiful choice in this moment? I can either be grumpy and fall into myself, or I can say, hey, can you guys do this for 3 minutes? I'm going to be in there, and then meet me in there. And then we just carried on with the workshop. So I had to be what I was bringing. You're on a treasure hunt for something very specific. The last one was about keeping yourself in a good state and noticing what your brain does. Because it's actually much easier to be creative when you have constraints to work within than when you have nothing. So what your brain does is it makes rules. And some of those rules might have cheered you up and been really useful. And some of those rules might have made what you were doing harder. So what you're on a treasure hunt in your group for is what are rules. So I'll give you an example. If you point, a rule would be, if it's a chair, I can't call it a chair. I can't call it what it is. That's an example of a rule. I can't say bad words. And some people get really nervous about that. I can't say bad words. Notice, good point. I want people to feel safe, so I'm not going to say certain words. So what are the rules that are in your group? I'm going to give you 2 minutes to explore that, and then we'll come back and hear for the whole group. What are some rules that you noticed your brain creating about that last round? My mom also founded a museum called the American Visionary Art Museum, which is quite an anti-establishment place. This is one of the buildings that has love built really, really large. And if you go to the next slide, these are the education goals of my mother's museum, and I can send these out if it's of interest. So the first one, expand the definition of a worthwhile life. Engender respect for and delight in the gifts of others. Increase awareness of the wide variety of choices available in life for all, particularly students. Encourage each individual to build upon his or her own special knowledge and inner strengths. Promote the use of innate intelligence, which is what improv does quite well, intuition, self-exploration, and creative self-reliance. Confirm the great hunger for finding out just what each of us can do best in our own voice at any age. And empower the individual to choose to do that something really, really well. We were talking about, does it matter about marketing, how we market if when they get there, it's not aligned quite with the marketing, or how can we have things feel alive? One of the things she's done for fundraisers is to have goddess sleepover parties for fundraisers. So they engage women who are very successful social entrepreneurs, and they have an evening where they sleep over at the museum, and they have massages and inspirational talks and playfulness. So the invitation is, from now, you're on a treasure hunt, and that we all have beautiful gifts to share, and we all have beautiful gifts to offer. And we don't know what those are going to be until we have that interaction. Until we really see the person that we're talking with, we see what lights them up, we notice what lights ourselves up. So the invitation for now until you leave here is be delightful on that treasure hunt. How can you connect and really get as much beautiful treasure and give as much beautiful treasure as you can? Thank you very much.